So today I have like been like really like getting around my neighborhood. I think I'll share, a little bit of like the school that I went to. One of the first school that I actually ever got kept back in, right? So this is Long Avenue School. We passed by Bird Avenue School. But it's just so funny that, so I went to Long Avenue in the fourth grade. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so this was the campus where the bullying happened. And I don't think we were separated on the yard at this school. I do remember being separated at Andrew Jackson, and I do remember being separated, well, no, at Northside. Yeah, Northside, I do remember being separated at Northside, which is on the other side of town. But I don't remember being separated at Bird Avenue or Long Avenue. Now the sidewalk is covered with grass, but this is the sidewalk a 9-year-old me used to dance on in a Michael Jackson jacket. In a Michael Jackson jacket. Yeah, this is a sidewalk a 9-year-old me used to be dancing up and down in a Michael Jackson jacket, a little teeny thing. I wasn't a big for my age. I didn't get my little growth spurt to be 5'8" until I was like 12. But yeah, I used to dance my little butt off, and there was a trash can right down there. Right down there was a trash can that I had got dumped in by another child who later came out as gay, but wasn't too excited about being associated with my gay, queer, feminine, not being able to deny my foremother's ass. But yeah, this was right up in here where the classes was at, and yeah, this is Long Avenue. Yeah. And I haven't walked on this campus since I was a child. Anyway, I'm just looking at how, our family land and how the school that I went to, and I think I'm going to share more while I'm here because I really want to get into this conversation about how there's so many different methods that have been used to get us to move away from our own blessings, our own land. Now that I'm back and I'm here, I feel at home, but I'm not messed up about why people have left. A lot of people will not admit the religion is so steep. The way that it's taught when you in them woods. The church that I went to, the last time I went there, which wasn't that long ago, a few years back, they still had the white Jesus in the pulpit, and it's a all black church. And so it hit different in a metropolitan city. Because I think in New Orleans, you do have the churches where the white Jesuses are at, but you don't really get the white Jesus in the pulpit. You might get the white Jesus at the Catholic schools and the white Marys at the private schools that they be going to, but in the woods, and church be more important to some of our people than actual education, which would explain why so many of us have a 6th grade education in this country, because at church You ain't gotta. They tell you to study the word for yourself, but they're not really focused on you studying the word. They just want you to be there on Sundays to listen to that sermon, put that money in that collection plate. But they don't really need you to read. That's what the pastor's for. The pastor's gonna read, the deacon's gonna read. Now, if church was churching the way that it was supposed to be churching, we wouldn't be able to do the mega thing situation. It would be mandatory to have a bunch of smaller churches so that you can make sure that people are reading. You would have people stand up and go around the room and read, and you would have people making sure at church that these people could read. But a lot of churches aren't worried about if you can read and if you can write. That's how they align with the government. They want you to hear, get that word, but not know how to read or interpret that word for yourself. And so you see a lot of that in the South. And that is where I kind of was like different. Not only am I a queer person, a trans person, a gender fluid person, a two-spirited person, my comprehension has always been good. And I want to say that that's true for a lot of beings like me. Most of my friends growing up, if not all of them, were intelligent. But very few of them still live here. Maybe 2 or 3 of them. Like, beings are put in place, and it is their job, they're groomed to keep you at a certain level. And it's financially beneficial to them. It's a duty that they're sworn into to do, to keep things at a certain level. Because in these churches, if they had promoted reading and learning, and the thing is that I even remember in my childhood, I was so eager to tell people what I know and to give people my perspective. I don't think that I was really in a thoughtful enough position to pay attention to how well other people knew how to read. I didn't start to think like that until around in my 30s, and by then I was in a place with the Christian religion where I wasn't leaning to pastors or leaning to shepherds or bishops at a church. I had come into, it is my turn. I remember when I met her, and she had really, really like anointed me. And after that, like maybe not long after that, I felt I was coming into my calling for a long time. Like when I first came back to New Orleans after Katrina around 2009 to really, really be here, that was when I started coming into my own way of teaching and my own way of, I was doing it the way I was taught to do it. And the way you're taught is just to give people a message, but not really make sure that they are getting it. Like the church doesn't encourage comprehension. They just want you to be able to repeat what you heard. That's what you see a lot of at home. People barking orders at you, barking commandments at you, telling you how it's supposed to be, but not necessarily having the capacity or having the bandwidth or being in a space to really explain to you, to really articulate to you why. That was my struggle with math. Teachers would just stand in front of me and say it to me and just say, this is how it goes. But no math teacher ever brought math to life for me. Like, as math elevated, I think I met maybe one teacher who did that for me, and I was around that teacher so briefly that it really didn't stick. Like, there were teachers who spoke that brought language alive to me, I think my grandmother reading with me and reading the Bible with me as a child, I think that is why I gravitated more because my grandmother took the time to make sure I knew how to read. I can't say that the teachers were that attentive. My grandmother, through the Bible was the first book that I really, really got into reading, and my grandmother made sure I knew how to read that. And that helped with my comprehension because we had conversations about it, but a lot of children don't get that, and it definitely wasn't the church that gave that to me. It was my grandmother, a man and woman. So I just look and I see why people leave small towns like this, because the comprehension is understanding is not important as long as you can repeat what you heard and follow what you heard. I don't really care if you get it. I don't really care if you understand it. I don't really care if you fully, completely understand it to the point to where you can actually think about this enough to come up with your own thoughts about it. I don't really care about that. I just need for you to be able to repeat what you heard and move based off of what you heard. That is how society is. And so for those who are good at that, and that is a strength for them, they kind of set the tone and create a stage where nobody really wants to be here, because if you are able to think beyond or take information and really get different perspective about it, get nuance, go deep with it, it is looked at as evil, wicked, demonic, because other people don't, because the ones in power, they don't have the capacity, or either it's not beneficial to them to see it from that way. And so you have all of these variables that come into play that make this not a space, that make spaces like these not conducive to human growth and evolution. That's why nature is so well preserved, because people are constantly being pushed out. And then nature gets a chance to refurbish and refertilize everything. And then here comes the machine again, chopping all that down and moving all that out and having another experiment. Then when that experiment gets old, it give them just the bare minimum. So when it comes time to push them out, it's easy. And then it let nature grow back up and take back over until it's ready to do another experiment. That's the world we live in. But, now I'm understanding that the process is not, it's been finessed to where it doesn't have to be so abrasive like it used to be. Like there's always going to be beings that are going to require extra because they extra. Like it's 8 billion variables on the planet. There are going to be there's going to be some radical energy, there's going to be some defiant energy, there's going to be some rebellious resistant energy, and I don't think that energy is wrong. I don't think that energy shouldn't exist, but I think for a whole population to live in fear, to be worried, is ridiculous. Because if you know who and whose you are, you understand that all this is just temporary anyway. Shapeshift, morph, terraform, evolve, merge with that entity, that energy that is coming for its eon in the sun. The sun don't shine everywhere at the same time. It's day for some and it's night for others. And so the sun is going down on a mindset, on a space and consciousness. And a lot are doing everything they can to hold on to it, but too much of the truth is flooding the airwaves. All you have to do is be able to listen and discern and comprehend and not just follow, not just repeat, but actually listen, hear for yourself, and move from that space. Amen, a woman. Lay them, lay that. Love y'all. New Legacy, Lay them, Layla Nation, Purple Ones. Right.